Hey everyone, in this week's weekly practice where we work on refining the arch and the flattened actions that we take as a part of our daily practice. So we can start to really feel which muscles are we talking about when we talk about contracting the muscles in the back plane of the body, and which muscles are we talking about when we talk about contracting into the front plane of the body. So when you're ready, go ahead and come down onto your back. And as always, take a moment just to get comfortable on the floor. You can bend your knees, you can extend your legs, whatever allows you to really let go into that support and to shift your focus. As you let your breath flow easily in and out, let it lift your belly on the inhale. And let that fullness melt back down and in as you let your breath flow back out, drawing back in towards your center. And as you breathe, notice whether you feel a little bit of the arching sensation as you breathe in and let your belly rise, and a little of the curling, flattening sensation as you breathe out and let your front body melt back in and down. To refine those actions, we're going to be helping our minds to differentiate the experience of contracting into different places within the back body and the front body. We'll start with the back body. When you're ready, you can bring your elbows alongside your ribs, point your fingertips up towards the sky. You might notice that this is the same shape that we come into when we set ourselves up for bridge pose. Bridge pose is a contraction of the back body. And we're going to start breaking this action of arching the back down into tiny, tiny little pieces. Going slow, using only the amount of effort you need to actually feel a little engagement in these places in the body. Start to press your elbows gently down towards the floor. Maybe that's 10, 15, even 20% of your effort, but try to keep it gentle. Come just to the place where you can feel them contract. And then see if you can release that effort all the way back to zero until there's no more contraction in those muscles in the back of the arms that press your elbows down. Try that a couple of times. The elbows press down, and then very smoothly and slowly release that work. And see if you can come all the way to zero in both arms. Try that one more time. The elbows press back. See if you can feel how you move from zero effort towards that place where you can feel contraction. And then very slowly ease your way back out again. We're going to start to add on to that press of the elbows back until we've brought awareness and contraction into the whole back body. First, press the elbows down just as before. Now start to press the backs of your arms down towards the mat as well. Let your mind really experience the difference between the elbows and the backs of the arms. And then slowly release. Try that once more with those two pieces. Press the elbows down and then the backs of the arms down. And then very slowly, very smoothly ease your way back out. All the way to zero, or as close to zero as you can get. So we'll add to the press of the back of the arms, the press of the shoulders. The elbows press down, and let the backs of the arms press down. And then let the shoulders themselves feel like they press back. Notice how there's a difference between the backs of the arms and the shoulders. And if you don't feel a difference, imagine one. Visualize how those might be different and see if over time your mind can start to feel how those are actually separate spaces in your body. Again, release it all the way back to zero, slowly and smoothly. Try that a couple more times. First the elbows, then the backs of the arms, and then the shoulders. And then very gently ease your way all the way back up. This variation is based on the work of Eric Cooper, who's a somatics practitioner in the US, who has a lot of great variations of some of our movements that we practice every time. So next we'll add Once we've pressed the shoulders back, drawing the shoulder blades towards one another. Again, our goal is not maximum effort, but to feel the muscles between the shoulder blades add into that pattern of contraction. So first press your elbows down, then the backs of the arms, then your shoulders. Now start to draw your shoulder blades towards one another on your back. You'll notice your chest lifts up a little bit, that the muscles in your back engage. Now really slowly, really smoothly soften that work. See if you can visualize and feel the shoulder blades moving apart as you let go. And then let the whole back of the arm soften its press towards the mat. Again, coming all the way to zero if you can. Try that once more or twice more. Press the elbows down, then the backs of the arms, then the shoulders. And let the shoulders draw towards one another. Notice how your chest presses forward, how the muscles in the back contract. And then really slowly release back up. So we'll add to the movement of the shoulder blades together, letting them draw down the back towards the low back. You'll notice with each of these next steps, we start to move a little bit more into what we would think of as an arch in the back. First let the elbows press, then the backs of the arms, then the shoulders. Start to draw your shoulder blades towards one another. And now keeping them drawn in a little bit, start to draw them down as if you were going to tuck them down to touch your low back or the top of your pelvis. Feel how your ribs lift up a little bit as the back ribs and the shoulder blades draw down. And now as slowly and smoothly as you can, release that work. See if your mind can stay super present with the experience of slowly letting go of that contraction so that your mind can release any patterns of tension from those areas more deeply. So we'll try that once or twice more. And the elbows will press back, backs of the arms, shoulders. Shoulder blades will draw towards one another and then down. And then very, very slowly ease your way back up. And then go little by little by little by little. If you notice that the process of letting go is jerky or it's difficult to go slow, often that means that there's a disconnect there. So you can go even slower as you find those places. Let's try it one more time. Elbows, backs of the arms, shoulders. Shoulder blades draw towards one another and then down. Again, we're not aiming for as much effort as we can possibly do, but one that allows our minds to feel, learn, and experience this action. And then slowly release. See if you can feel the middle back lengthen and the upper back broaden, as well as that release come all the way down through the arms. So our final step is going to be adding a little more arch into the low back. So first press the elbows back, then the upper arms, then the shoulders. Shoulder blades will draw towards one another, and then they'll start to draw down. And then let that drawing down come into a little tip of the pelvis so that you're reaching your tailbone or your sitting bones down. You should feel your whole back contracting here. You might notice that this brings your chin in towards your chest. If you were standing at attention, like military attention, this is what you'd be doing with your back body. And then very, very slowly, as slowly and smoothly as you can, release that work. You're melting that work out of your back to soften yourself towards the floor and coming all the way to zero. It's super important that our focus is not on pulling ourselves back to the floor, but on releasing ourselves back to the floor. So I'm going to try that a couple of times. Draw back with the elbows, the backs of the arms, the shoulders. Shoulder blades will move towards one another, then down the back, and then let that become a little bit more arch for the low back as well. And see if you can really feel the whole of your back engage. And on the second time, we're going to try releasing in tiny little pieces. Release a little bit and pause. Release a little and pause. A little and pause. When we pause, we ask our minds to contract back in just a little bit to stop that process of releasing, coming all the way back to zero, of course, as you make your way to the floor. And often that breaking into little sections gives our minds more awareness, more presence, and connection to the work that we're doing of letting go. We'll take one more cycle, and you can break the release into pieces or let it be smooth and slow, whichever one works best for you. Elbows will press, backs of the arms, shoulders, again, coming in with great awareness. Shoulder blades will move towards one another, then down the back, until that rolls like a wave into a little arch of the low back. You might even notice that your glutes, your outer hips contract in this shape. And then very, very slowly, whether you're using little steps or whether you're trying to keep this movement slow and smooth, come all the way back down. See, again, if you can come all the way to zero, not by pulling with the front body, but by releasing the work that you did in the back body to get there. What this differentiation of these pieces helps us to find is, where do we lose connection? And can we release from the contracted muscles to come back to a place where the back has more space? Let your arms soften down as you finish. Give yourself a moment just to breathe. So in the same way that we worked to differentiate and understand that arching of the back, you can do the same with the toning of the muscles in the front body, where being really contracted in our back muscles is often holding ourselves upright, like a military posture, keeping ourselves erect, moving forward. Contraction in the front body is often a sinking in of the chest, whether that comes just from habit and the way we sit at the computers, or whether it comes from anxiety or depression. Often we see people who are struggling draw in at the chest, and that comes from a pull in the belly muscles. So what this revision of this pattern is going to help us do is to feel a little bit of that sinking in at the chest, and also to notice how that affects the upper back, the neck, those spaces that are, of course, on the opposite side of the chest and the belly. So to do that, we're going to bring our hands back behind our heads. As always, both with the back and with the front body, we want to move in a way that feels good for us. So please don't force or pull against tension in your body. Let these movements feel like they come just to the place that's at the edge of easy movement, and then soften back out from that place. To begin, take a deep breath. And as you breathe in, feel how your chest expands. You might notice that that brings a little arch into your back as you let your belly rise, that invites your shoulders to ground back. That's a release for the chest and the front body. Now, as you exhale, let your low back start to draw down towards the mat. As you draw your low back down, feel your belly tone, start to feel your ribs move in. Let your head and chest rise. We've practiced this much before. And now, start to let your elbows come in so that they point up towards the sky. Start to reach your elbows up. And as you reach your elbows up, feel how your chest sinks in and your belly muscles tone a little bit more. And now really staying conscious of lowering yourself down by releasing little by little by little through the front body. Come all the way down. And as you come down, of course, let your elbows melt to the sides, let your shoulders fully come to rest. We'll try that action a couple of times. As you breathe in, see if you can notice any places that feel restricted in your ribs. For me today, that's down here in the lower ribs, but it could be anywhere. It could be in the upper chest, it could be by the collarbones. And I'm going to try to bring a little contraction into those spaces between the ribs when I curl up. So again, my focus is going to be down here in the lower ribs, but please let your focus be wherever that is for you. And then with your exhale, as you start to draw your low back down, see if you can consciously start to close those spaces where you felt the tension. Drawing them closer together lets your mind connect to them. Again, as you lift up, elbows are gonna come in, and then reach your elbows skyward. Really contract into wherever you felt that restriction in your breathing. And now place your focus in that area. And as you breathe in and start to lower, see if you can let your breath flow in towards those spaces. So that not only are you consciously releasing to lower yourself down, but you're filling yourself with breath from the inside to support more softening and releasing in those areas. So we'll take this action 2 more times. Again, maybe the amount you move is smaller. Maybe the amount you move is greater than what I am showing here. Make sure you're honoring and not forcing that movement in your body. As you breathe in, again, notice whether there are places that feel sticky or tight. And as you exhale, draw your low back down. Let that move the ribs in. See if you can feel this action of shortening the front body and how that pulls from the center of your chest towards your belly button. Again, maybe you come a little lower this time and lift your elbows from there, noticing how that might change the experience both in your chest and in your back. And then very, very slowly, again, really focusing on this lowering coming from releasing in the front body. Back body just stays quiet, soft, coming all the way down and letting your head rest and your elbows soften to the side. We'll take that pattern one more time. Again, as you breathe in, fill yourself from the inside. Notice places that feel like they resist. For me, that's still a little bit on the left side. And as you exhale, start to shorten and close in. When we come into this shape, whether it's from habit or whether it's from anxiety, we restrict the space to breathe. So really feel how this curling up, this reaching of the elbows constricts your breathing space. And then very, very slowly release yourself down. Notice whether you try to grip or help in the back body. And if you do less. Lift less far and let the releasing come from the front body so that the front body and your mind in its connection to those muscles is really in control of lowering you down so that you're consciously letting go of tension that you're holding there and tension that you consciously brought into those muscles. Once you come down, release your hands by your sides and give yourself a moment or two just to breathe.